Coming up on AOPA Live this week from the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte, we've got what President Barack Obama has to say about user fees, an app that alerts you when you're approaching an active runway, tomorrow's glass panel today, and an epic journey in a J-3 Cub. AOPA Live this week from the DNC begins right now. Welcome to Charlotte, North Carolina, the site of the Democratic National Convention. I'm Tom Haynes. Thanks for joining us on AOPA Live this week. We did it with the Republicans. This week, we did it with the Democrats. AOPA is nothing if not bipartisan. As we did in Tampa, AOPA, along with the National Business Aviation Association and the Hill newspaper, hosted a reception for politicians, convention delegates, and AOPA members. A reception to thank those political leaders who have befriended general aviation through the years, and a chance for those with a passion for general aviation to tell those leaders what flying means to them and the country.
The truth of the matter is that conventions, no matter what some in the media may say, play a very important role. People who come to these conventions are the most involved and engaged from around the country. Back home and in cities and in counties and in state legislatures, members of Congress come to participate in their party's convention.
Well, it's very important. You know, both AOPA and NBAA are the premier general aviation organizations, both in Congress and in the United States. So, you know, I have to say that bringing people together in a bipartisan way, you see members of Congress that were in Tampa last week, and Republicans, Democrats are here. We're all coming together for one reason with general aviation, and that is because it's important not only to the economy of the United States, but it's important to all of the pilots and aircraft owners throughout the United States.
And what strikes you in a gathering like this is the passion of everyone, including members of Congress, for aviation.
And I love partnering with people that have their heart in what they do.
As members of Congress, we need to be willing to have someone wag their finger in our face and to tell us what is going on, right? And so it's important for us to hear directly from the general aviation industry about what's important, and it's important to hear from folks back home in our districts about what's important too.
And what was important was bringing rank-and-file AOPA members into the political process.
You know, we've also both enjoyed, I think, connecting with so many of our members, our own members who have shown up, who know that we're here, they were invited to come, they wanted to come and mingle with some of the elected officials and policy people that are here. But it's great for us to show our members what this is all about, and it's great for the members of Congress, frankly, to see real people out here at this convention.
Our members have been so effective as engaged and mobilized advocates for our industry. They themselves have reached out to their members of Congress. And this is a great way to put those together. So it's not just us being a conduit. Having actual access between our members and the elected officials is really terrific.
Of course, the political question of the evening, user fees.
But I don't see a user fee having a lot of legs, or a lot of wings for that matter.
I thought the Bush administration was wrong trying to impose user fees, and I think the Obama administration is wrong as well. My advice to this administration and to the next administration is forget about the user fee proposal and to stick with the current tax system and revenue system that we have to fund the air traffic control system for general aviation.
But even though members of Congress say user fees won't fly, that doesn't mean the executive branch of the government won't try to get them. As you may remember from last week, Governor Romney has not ruled out user fees, and President Obama has definitely ruled them in. Just as we asked Governor Romney, we asked the President a series of questions on important issues to general aviation and on the issue of proposed $100 charges per flight in controlled airspace. The administration is holding firm. In response to our user fee question, the President said, all flights that use controlled airspace require a similar level of air traffic services. However, commercial and general aviation can pay very different aviation fees for the same air traffic services. To reduce the deficit and more equitably share the cost of air traffic services across the aviation user community, my administration proposes a $100 per flight fee by aviation operators who fly in controlled airspace. All piston aircraft, military aircraft, public aircraft, air ambulances, aircraft operating outside of controlled airspace, and Canada-to-Canada flights would be exempted. President Obama says this fee could finance roughly 3/4 of airport investments and air traffic control costs. Now about 28% of the FAA's budget comes from the general fund that all of us pay into every year, mostly by paying our income taxes. We asked the president if he supported continuing that contribution from the general fund to the FAA. Since all Americans benefit from a safe and well-regulated air transportation system, that seems to make sense. His answer: my goal is to support our aviation system in a way that is more stable, fair, and transparent, and that helps move our aviation system forward. Both dedicated revenues and the general fund play an important role in achieving that goal. Finally, we asked the president if he would continue to support NextGen implementation without reducing funds for other FAA programs. The president said, I continue to support significant investments in the NextGen project as described in more detail in my budget proposals. And remember, the complete answers from President Obama and Governor Romney, as well as the positions of many others running for Congress, will be in the October issue of AOPA Pilot magazine. One thing I noticed as I prepared to fly my A36 Bonanza down to Charlotte is that the convention TFR NOTAM is, well, confusing. AOPA has a staff dedicated to helping you know about and digest VIP and security TFRs. AOPA Live's Paul Harrop has their story.
Election day is drawing near, and with all the campaign stops, presidential temporary flight restrictions are being drawn quite frequently. Inside the Pilot Information Center at AOPA, there's a staff dedicated to helping members stay on top of the constantly changing airspace.
And we certainly don't want anybody to be violated because they didn't know about a NOTAM.
So Chris Lawler and Patrick Timmerman man the NOTAM duty desk.
There's a special office within the NOTAM office that actually works on the presidential TFRs, and we get special advance notice of temporary flight restrictions when they're coming out.
We normally receive a notification from the FAA 48 hours in advance of when a NOTAM's going to come out.
And then we work on them to format them in a way that's easier to read for our members.
From there, an email is sent out to AOPA members, usually within 250 miles of the TFR, giving them a heads up. But they say that's all it should be.
Per the FARs, it's your responsibility to check all available information, and NOTAMs are part of that.
Because if you get violated, you're going to face the FAA, possible suspension. So it's not something that you want to do.
In addition to the AOPA emails, pilots can check the @VIP_TFR Twitter account for the latest notifications. But again, just as a heads up, always check the latest official NOTAMs before you fly. Paul Harrop, AOPA Live.
Well, pilots aren't the only ones affected by TFRs. They can also hamstring FBOs. We talked to Bob Wilson of Wilson Air Service at Charlotte Douglas International Airport about what the DNC convention and its associated presidential TFRs have done to his business.
You know, we've been, as I mentioned earlier, working about 7 months with all the different agencies. Have been really on a pre-planned situation here, and we've been kind of fighting for our turf, and they fought for their turf, and you know what we're seeing. For me, I've been pleasantly surprised so far.
So it's going to be a net positive revenue experience for you?
Well, I think, revenue-wise, you can probably roll the dice because, we normally in Charlotte have a lot of base tenants flying.
Right.
So, probably would have to say it ought to be some kind of uptick, but I don't think it's going to be to the degree a lot of people would think. Yeah. I think overall positive for us, yes, because people that probably have never been in it here before get to experience our service levels and whatnot, and I think we do probably one of the best jobs in servicing our industry and the aviation industry.
Have you ever wanted to just get in the airplane and fly around the country? Well, one couple did just that, touching down in all of the contiguous 48 states. AOPA Pilot Magazine's senior editor Jill Tallman has the story of an epic J-3 journey.
You wouldn't know it from watching it taxi to the AOPA ramp, but this yellow J-3 has had quite the journey.
We left from Fallston Airport, which is just north of Baltimore, on July 1st, and this is our last stop before we head back to Fallston, and we'll be done with our trip.
But in between, the little high wing has used 626 gallons of low lead, flown 8,000 miles, and touchdown in 48 states.
It's just something that we've always wanted to do. A lot of pilots, that you talk to have wanted to make some trip flying around the country. It's a bucket list item, and we just couldn't think of a good reason not to do it this summer.
So husband and wife team Meredith Chernowski and Dana Holliday did. They packed the bare essentials and left the rat race behind. The mission? See the country and write a book.
We bought this J3 in Florida on New Year's Eve last year, specifically for the trip. We wanted a plane that would fly low and slow, that we could open the window and explore America that way.
And also, just because of its nostalgic value, it taught 4 out of 5 people how to fly back in the 30s and 40s. It's my favorite airplane.
And the trusty Piper performed perfectly.
We had very little problems with it, and we did 3 oil changes along the way, including a spark plug cleaning, and we couldn't have asked for it to do a better job than it did, including taking us up to 8,000 feet during the summer. So we hit a density altitude of over 10,000 feet in the mountains, crossing the Great Divide.
The couple got a once-in-a-lifetime view of America.
To say the terrain out west, for me personally, was the most interesting. Flying through the Snake River Valley in Idaho, just some really bizarre things visually that I'd never seen before, like old lava flows and stuff that looked like the surface of the moon.
The Badlands in South Dakota was something I was really looking forward to seeing, and that didn't let me down. The Pacific Coast was very emotional because we realized then we had gone as far west as we could possibly go.
They did miss a few creature comforts.
A whole separate change of clothes. I'm sick of these clothes. I don't think I'll wear them again.
While the journey was grand, on this last day they are looking forward to the destination, the comforts of home, and someone who has been waiting for them.
My dog, and we'll get to see him tomorrow.
Jill Tallman, AOPA Live. When we come back, a cool new feature in ForeFlight and flying the Garmin 5000. You're watching AOPA Live this week from the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte.
Flight following didn't call out an opposing plane. I saw it on the screen. He turned right and the other plane just pretty much flew right on by. It's your life. You only get one shot at this.
Welcome back to AOPA Live this week, coming to you from the DNC in Charlotte, North Carolina. While the election may be 2 months away, the AOPA Aviation Summit in exciting Palm Springs, California is just 5 weeks away. We'll have the experts on hand to discuss it. FAA Acting Administrator Michael Huerta will share his vision for GA's future Friday in the keynote session. AOPA President Craig Fuller, Flying Magazine Editor-in-Chief Robert Goyer, and I will also debate the pros and cons of the presidential candidates. In this important year, you can't miss it. Find out more and register for the AOPA Summit in beautiful Palm Springs at aopa.org/summit. There are few places in the world more beautiful to fly than New Zealand, and thanks to user fees, few places more expensive, and it could get even more costly. Starting in November, Kiwi pilots will have to pay the equivalent of $185 for a pilot certificate and $250 every time they renew their medical certificates. The New Zealand Civil Aviation Authority says the increased charges are more fair because they come closer to making pilots pay the actual cost of the services they use. New Zealand pilots say the charges are so high because the Aviation Authority, particularly the medical unit, is so inefficient. Back here in the U.S., meanwhile, the FAA has taken its first steps to implement the Pilot's Bill of Rights. That bill guarantees, among many other things, that you can get air traffic control data and voice tapes related to an incident involving you. Problem is that some of the data isn't stored very long before it's deleted, so you have to ask for it quickly and in the proper way. The FAA has put everything you need to know about getting that data on its website. There's a link right on its homepage. Remember, the FAA says if you think you're going to need that data, you should ask for it expeditiously before it's erased. One of the things that might trip you up with the FAA is an inadvertent runway incursion. ForeFlight has a new feature to help you prevent that. It's called the Runway Proximity Advisor. AOPA Flight Training Editor Ian Twombly checks it out.
In the never-ending quest to get more functionality packed into these electronic flight bag apps, ForeFlight has come out with a new feature which is really nifty. It's called Runway Proximity Advisor. And essentially what it does is it brings up a dialog box when you get close to and then enter a runway. So let's say you're approaching runway 32, it'll pop that up tell you that, and then when you cross the hold short lines, it'll give you a new one that says entering runway 32. And the way it works is that ForeFlight is drawn essentially an electronic box around the runway environment that then knows where your airplane is based on the GPS position. It'll also give you an oral alert.
Approaching runway 12.
If you have a direct connection to your headset via an aux port, or if you have the Zulu 2, it'll do it via Bluetooth, which is really cool. Best part of this whole thing, it's included in the base price of ForeFlight, so if you have either the base or the upgraded version, you get it regardless. So go to the website, the App Store, you can upgrade now with the newest version, or if you're a new ForeFlight customer, you'll get it as well. Ian Twombly, AOPA Live.
When we come back, we'll fly the new Garmin G5000 and a new Air Safety Institute course on unmanned aerial systems.
It's been called the most sophisticated single-engine airplane ever, but to the people whose loved ones are alive today, it's called a lifesaver. The Cirrus Airframe Parachute System, only from Cirrus Aircraft.
Welcome back to AOPA Live this week. Pilot and author Richard Bach is in serious condition, according to media reports, after his aircraft crashed while attempting to land in Washington State. He was flying a Sea Ray like the one you see in this video. The reported crash happened August 31st. The amphibious aircraft came to rest upside down in a field after clipping a power line on approach to a grass strip. That is according to James Bach, his son, and reported by the Associated Press. His son said that Bach, who was taken to Harborview Medical Center in Seattle, sustained a head injury and a broken shoulder. One of the uncertainties pilots will face in coming years is how unmanned aircraft systems will integrate with the rest of the national airspace system. That's why the Air Safety Institute worked with the Department of Defense to create an online interactive course about UASs. The course addresses concerns about the safety of UAS and how they will impact your flying. Aviation technical writer Mochteld Smith says it will give you a head start at understanding the future role of UAS in the skies.
What will happen when a UAS pops up in the airspace? How do I know about it? How do I learn what a UAS will do, and how can they safely fly in the same airspace that I'm going to be flying in? That's really, this course answers those questions. It talks about how DoD currently looks at operating UAS in the national airspace system. And for GA, the civil operations of UAS will become very similar to that kind of operation.
The course is free and takes about 30 minutes. You can find it right now at the web address on your screen. Well, the next generation of LearJets is going to be equipped with the next generation of Garmin glass panels. AOPA pilot editor-at-large Tom Horn went to Wichita to get a look at the Garmin G5000.
You know, by mid-2013, LearJet is going to stop producing the 40 and 45 XR models, and they're switching to a new 70-75 model LearJet. Now, why do this? Well, they're putting new, more powerful, more fuel-efficient engines on the new airplanes, and they're changing the wing a little bit and canting the winglets out, I think, 2 degrees. But the big news up front is the cockpit. The Lear 70 and 75 will have the Garmin G5000 avionics suite. This replaces the 40 and 45 XR's Primus 1000 avionics panel, which consisted of 4 smaller displays with Garmin's huge 3-screen, 14-inch diameter displays and touchscreen controls. This means that you can theoretically set up these 3 screens to show 6 views of information using the touchscreen display. This is activated by punching on the touch keys, which breaks an infrared field and activates the view you've selected. Why don't we go along on a flight and you can see for yourself just what this airplane offers.
Bravo Charlie is ready for takeoff on the right.
Clear 785 Bravo Charlie, Wichita Tower traffic, 5 mile final in LearJet, turn right heading 230, runway 1 on the right, clear for takeoff.
Right 230, cleared to go. There you go, you're in takeoff. 2 in takeoff. Airspeed is alive. V1 and rotate. Positive rate.
You're up.
785 Bravo Charlie is with you at a 3 for 5.
Clear 785 Bravo Charlie, Wichita departure, radar contact, please MO navigation altitudes Pratt.
On navigation and altitudes, thank you.
Well, here we are up at 16,500 feet with Tom Carr from Garmin. We've got the G5000 set up in a 6-screen view, and I can control through my controller what appears on the left-hand side of these two screens, and Tom can control the right-hand side. So we've got TCAS information here, and we've got a map, and then we've got NextGen information, wind information, as well as precipitation returns, and then over there on the right side we've got the electrical system up. But we could just as easily put up the fuel system, and it would show us how much we've got left. Again, these controllers here are just push-button control. We can call up different functions. Here's the approach chart. Aircraft systems. You can check the status of all the systems. Weather. We just had the weather radar on there. Traffic. Pause. No terrain out here to worry about. Services. This has the capability of telephone, text messaging, XM music, and I guess there's going to be an option to have the Iridium system in here for telephone calls. So that's basically it. We've shown you just a few of the many features on the G5000, which also includes the G5000 autopilot. And some of the features that are in the Lear 40, with this being the testbed airplane for the G5000. Okay, we got 3 green, the doors are up, flaps are full. A whole lot of flare. And you're in good shape, you're on rip. There you go, idle in. Okay, TRs anytime.
Well, thanks for coming along on the trip. I hope you got a sense of some of the great features of this G5000 panel. Did you like my landing? No? Well, anyway, we'll be back in a few months to take you up in the final product with the engines and the new winglets. Put the whole package together. See you then.
Join us next week when we'll be back in our Frederick, Maryland studios. We'll continue to follow the countdown to the elections and what it means for general aviation. A special thank you this week to KRGV TV for additional footage from the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte. I'm Tom Haynes. Thanks for watching.
Every Thursday,
we're working to get you answers.
The most experienced reporters in general aviation
bring you more details as they develop.
The stories that affect you.
We talk with our own safety expert.
Every Thursday, AOPA Live This Week.